I literally just walked back in from seeing the Odyssey. You guys asked me to review it, so here we go. I almost actively loathed this movie for the first 2 acts, and then something really surprising happened in the end. So here's all the things I noticed they got wrong, and here's something that they surprisingly got right. First, there's no film score. There's no symphony in this. You think of Gladiator, Troy, Star Wars. I still listen to those soundtracks. There's a symphony, a symphonic score behind it that is moving. This movie had none of that. It was like modernist, postmodern noise using like lyres and gongs and like instruments the Greeks would have had, but it didn't make ancient Greek music. So it was just sort of jarring. There was no rousing score to build up to that emotional climax. 2, this is supposedly grounded in historical and gritty realism. But if you're looking for historical accuracy, there's none to be found. I mean, the costumes are not remotely historically accurate. They're the opposite of that. The armor that Agamemnon wears is ridiculous. Actively took me out of the story. They had like Viking longboats, and they had medieval-looking armor, and they had like later Roman-esque armor. It just didn't fit the time period for something so grounded in historical realism. Personally, I didn't mind the ethnic diversity in it. It didn't take me out of the story, except perhaps with Helen of Troy, not because of her being black, but minor spoiler, her sister, who's played by the same actress, was more beautiful than her. There is some feminist messaging in the film. It's not subtle, but it's not frequent. Minor spoilers. I'll tell you when I get to the real spoilers, so you can click away if you'd like. But Penelope, she's talking with Telemachus, and as you know, Odysseus, the king, is gone, and Penelope is like, I've been sitting on this empty throne for 20 years, but I can't rule it as queen because I'm not a male. But you, my 20 years of experience is worth nothing compared to the bristles on your chin, she says to her young adult son, which is just kind of, it was a little heavy-handed. And of course, there were queens back then that were powerful, and they're in the book. If you read the Odyssey, you'll see queens. Calypso. I really liked Vanessa Williams as Calypso, as opposed to this actress. This actress is a beautiful lady, but man, did they do her no favors with the way they dressed her, the way they fixed her hair. She's a goddess. Achilles' armor in the book is special because not just because it's Achilles, but because it's made by Hephaestus, the god. The craftsmanship that go into what the gods wear is just unmatched. It's beyond what mortal humans can make. Not this goddess. Christopher Nolan said he didn't want it to just have people standing around in bed sheets. Well, he put her in a potato sack. I think she wears her fishing net at some point. It took me out of the story. They also reversed a little bit, minor spoiler, they reversed how Odysseus leaves Calypso. In the book, she actively wants him to stay. She's kind of this toxically feminine character saying, what do you think, your mortal wife is more beautiful than I, a goddess? She's trying to get him to leave to go home. Trying to make both Odysseus and Calypso sort of the good guy. The accents, man, the dialogue was so plain. There is no golden-tongued, witty Odysseus. Odysseus is known for being his poetic in his prose and able to convince people of things. This Odysseus, man, he's wicked smart, man. Like, I like Matt Damon, but this was just taking me out of the story. They had British actors training for American accents, Robert Pattinson, to play Greek characters. The film contradicted itself about the gods. This is the same thing Troy did. I hated this. It starts off by saying, in the world of apparent magic. Like, apparently there's magic. The movie actively shows magic. It shows human beings changing into animals. It shows a goddess, more than one. Why is it apparent magic? Also, Odysseus says, then I defy the gods. This is a modern atheist. You're reading modern atheism, materialism, skepticism into the ancient world and antiquity where it does not belong. I'm going to come back to that because there might be a twist. But Odysseus says, well, I defy the gods. Why? Achilles would not have defied the gods. I don't remember Odysseus defying the gods. It's not something that you do in those days because they actually believed they were real. And if you defy the gods, then God help you. This is why Odysseus can't leave Calypso in the book, because what would Poseidon or Calypso do to him if he defies the gods? Not just to him, but to his family, to his land, to his men, to his people. Also, they go to Hades, they go to the underworld. Kind of a cool scene. Just like the book, they slit, and here's some spoilers, by the way. From here on out, there will be spoilers. They slit the ram's throats, and the black blood is drinking by the spirits, the shades, the ghosts from the underworld. And this is clearly the lifeblood, is the life of the flesh is in the blood, as the Bible says. So this necromancy, if you will, they drink the blood and then they can communicate with the living. As though they're living temporarily through that momentary infusion of blood. Odysseus talks to Circe and she says, dude, you need to go and talk to the blind prophet. You need to go to Hades. No living mortal can go to Hades and come back. You can't go to the world of the dead and come back alive. She says, you will. But then he takes his men. How did he take his men to the world of the dead? How did they just walk up? How did they survive? The bard in the movie didn't really bother me. It's played by, I think his name is Travis Scott, a rapper. He didn't rap in the movie. It didn't really bother me. He actually was just kind of tapping a rhythm and then saying the story. It didn't bother me at all. Here's where it got interesting for me, and I really started to feel something towards the end. Here's the spoilers. Click away now if you must. So xenia is a concept in Greek that means something like hospitality. It's very important in antiquity in ancient Greece. You'll see some aspects of this even in the Bible in the book of Hebrews. It says, be careful to entertain strangers because some of you have entertained angels unawares. Telemachus entertains Athena. They don't point that out explicitly in the movie, but Telemachus says you have the wise eyes of Athena to an old man named Mentor who's in the book. That's where we get our word mentor, old man who advises with wisdom. It's from an old man who's Athena in disguise. This is Xenia when Telemachus showed him her hospitality. He thought it was a him, showed her hospitality. This is Zeus is the one who blesses and sanctions this responsibility between the guest and the host. I thought Nolan didn't understand this at all. I was really concerned at first that he was going to go the way of Emily Wilson in our modern translation, who tries to flatten out the heroism of Odysseus. She doesn't change the story. She doesn't fundamentally rewrite it. Her word choices just sort of are a little softer on the monster Cyclops Polyphemus or Circe. That's about the length of how she goes. No, Nolan, this was the most terrifying Polyphemus I've seen in film to date. He was borderline demonic, cold-hearted, man-eating monster. And the terror that these men would have faced really encaptured well in the film. But he doesn't know, the film calls it Zeus's law. He doesn't know or care about Xenia, this hospitality towards his guests. He eats them. Not only does he not feed them, he eats them. I thought Nolan didn't understand this at first because in the beginning of the film, Penelope's talking about Zeus's law and how she can't run these suitors out because of Zeus's law. And I thought, man, I hope he understands that they're abusing Xenia. They're not keeping their end of the bargain because of this social decay. These guests are staying for years, harassing Penelope, harassing the staff, the servants, Telemachus, the son of the king, disrespecting the king, the gods, religion, women, social and moral rot and decay. That's in the movie. He gets it. I really liked that. And that brings me to what he got so right. Two things. One, when, and some of the actors, I will say they acted their hearts out. Everybody. I'm not a fan of Anne Hathaway. She did a good job. This might have been her best performance to me. It doesn't strike me as Penelope from the book, but she acted very well. These people, John Leguizamo, I think is how you say his name, killed it. Robert Pattinson playing one of the suitors. I wanted to take him out and beat him in the face. That tells me he did a good job. Just deceptively wicked. The physical sets, the lack of green screen, no AI, very little CGI, real boats in real water with real people in real costumes. Thank you, Christopher Nolan. More of that, please. In the future, there may be less and less of that. Props, so good. Shot with real film. You know why films don't look like movies anymore? Because they're all digital, that's one reason. This is shot with IMAX film. And at some point, I just consciously realized, wait, hold up, this feels like a movie. Thank you, Christopher Nolan. When Odysseus comes home disguised, spoiler, he sort of assesses the situation. Oh, by the way, spoiler, Agamemnon is in Hades. He's in the book. I'm so glad they put this in the movie because you don't know the first time seeing the story if it's a comedy or a tragedy. Does it have a happy ending or a tragic ending? Agamemnon returns home from war. He gets there well before Odysseus to be murdered by his wife. He had sacrificed their daughter to Artemis, I think it was, for safe travels to Troy so he could win. I'm glad they put him in there to say, hey, when you get home, maybe assess the situation, be in disguise first. You don't know if Penelope's faithful to you. This is a theme, a subtle theme that Homer hints at, because you don't know the ending. Is it going to be is Penelope found a suitor? Will she kill and betray Ulysses? I'm so glad they put that in there. That being said, I didn't like the actor that played Agamemnon. Took me out of the story. Lupita Nyong'o, she did better playing. I did not like her as Helen of Troy. She did so well playing Clytemnestra, the wife of Agamemnon who betrays him because he sacrificed their daughter. He was away for so long, so she takes a lover. And man, she killed it, pun. When Odysseus is in disguise getting home, they condense this, but Telemachus eventually figures out who he is. But his dog, Argos, is outside laying on a dunghill, and he had him as a puppy to train him. And this faithful dog has been waiting for the king to come home for longer than a normal dog's life. He can barely move. He's lived most of his life without the king, and he recognizes him immediately. And his little tail wags before he passes away. That one moment with Odysseus. Man, that got me. The faithful handmaiden who, Odysseus, when he was young, he had a boar, a wound from a boar. And she nursed him. And that day, women would bathe men. So she nursed him and cared for him. She knew this wound. And when he came in as disguised as an old beggar, man, they nailed this, man. She's washing his feet and she sees it. And Nolan condenses that into a short amount of story. And she knows who he is, says nothing, and he says, don't say anything. She nods and happily goes away. I felt it. Here's what modern people don't understand about the Odyssey. Penelope needs Odysseus to come home. She needs her husband. It's not like, here's this straight white male going around having sex with everybody. No, you don't understand. She needs him to return. Telemachus needs his father to return. The land needs the king. There is social and moral decay and rot. These are men, these suitors are malformed men without chests, who are led about by their appetites. And they're trying to get power and consume them out of house and home. And frankly, they're trying to get sex. They're just led by their appetites. These are not brave, courageous, virtuous men. They were raised without fathers because their fathers were mostly killed in the Trojan War and never came home. So a lot of these guys, no dads. And you see the social effects of this. The land needs the king. And boy, I thought they nailed the third act. Maybe could have changed a few things, but the king returns. They didn't put in some ideology. It was simply the king returns, bringing wrath and judgment. And in the very end, finally, all the bland, colorless costumes, finally they show them with colorful costumes. Not good ones, but at least color. And then the final lines were, hey, we'll forget our mistakes and we'll move on. And from this dark night, the dawn will rise. It sounds kind of like a Batman line. I think Nolan was trying to say something about society that I very much appreciated. Jonathan Peugeot is an Eastern Orthodox YouTuber. Check him out, The Symbolic World. His take is that Nolan is essentially using modern iconography or postmodern iconography, all the typical checklist things you need, the woke stuff, right? But to tell the ancient story. So is it using postmodernity to subvert this ancient tale of heroism and virtue and the king returning, the father returning? Or is it using postmodern iconography to sort of smuggle in this very traditional but very needed message? I think it's a bit of both, but the ending really did nail that classic message. Interesting enough, at the end, Odysseus is exiled. He realizes, spoiler, that in deceiving the Trojans, they abused the hospitality, this law, this divinely sanctioned law, by offering a gift and using that gift to kill the Trojans. And for that, also for killing the suitors, he was exiled, which in, I think, Plutarch's version, he's exiled later because they have to make amends with the suitors' families, which Athena helps with. In this, he exiles himself, but he also realizes, so Telemachus can be king, after restoring what needed to be restored, he realizes that his whole deception in the Trojan War was wrong. Now, you can debate that, but here's what's interesting. Later Christians thought that that deception was wrong. Dante put Odysseus in hell. Nolan's saying that what we need is hospitality, virtue, the fragile bonds between humans have to be restored from the return of the king and the father. That being said, read the book. The book is 1,000 times better. Or watch The Return of the King. Hey, but things are getting dark out there, so I hope you know you matter. Your life matters. I promise you that. Don't check out early. Live your life to its fullest. As always, thanks for watching. God bless.